And with Israel's war against Hamas now in its 12th week, the political pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu's government is becoming more apparent. Recent polls show the support for his Likud party is plummeting. From winning 32 seats in parliament just over a year ago, Likud would only hold on to 18 if elections were held today. Centrist General Benny Gantz has meanwhile seen his own popularity rise. The former army chief of staff joined Netanyahu's war cabinet shortly after Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. From winning just 12 seats in parliament last November, polls show his National Unity Party would take 37 seats in new elections. Netanyahu's loss of support now comes amid mounting international criticism over his handling of the war.
This image of Israeli Prime Minister with his war cabinet members, Ministers Yoav Gallant and Benny Gantz, is misleading. It's meant to show unity, while behind the scenes there are growing tensions and deep political divides between them. Opinion polls show a clear trend of eroding support for the man who has managed in almost a mythical way to hold on to power through many ups and downs, longer than any other prime minister in Israel. But now, as the fighting in Gaza continues, with over 120 hostages still in the hands of Hamas, classified by multiple countries as a terrorist organization, public anger, grief and frustration are catching up with Netanyahu, the man who promised to be Israel's protector and, as critics say, failed. Meanwhile, centrist politician Benny Gantz, a former chief of the IDF and a member of the war cabinet, is winning hearts. He has tripled his standing in the polls, and to counter the popular general in his own cabinet, Netanyahu is toughening his stance.
The
Palestinian Authority, in its current format, cannot get control of Gaza. After we fought and we did all this to give it to them.
But Netanyahu's break further to the right and his refusal to discuss a path to a two-state solution and a long-term arrangement for Gaza Strip is not just an internal discussion. It puts the Israeli government at odds with the Biden administration, to the dismay of Benny Gantz. Many observers wonder now, how much longer can this makeshift political partnership still last?
That report by our Middle East analyst, Chani Rosanes. She joins me now in the studio. Hi, Chani. Does this loss of popularity that you've outlined here mean Israelis don't support Netanyahu's approach to the war?
Well, it's a very big question. I think the very idea that this question is looming above Netanyahu is his decision-making process clean of politics. That for itself is a big shadow to carry. But, when we talk about the war, there are many different aspects. There's what's happening in the immediate term. Should Israel move to this third phase of fighting? There's the long-term solutions for Gaza. There's what's happening in the West Bank. There's Lebanon. There's Iran, overlooming, the Iranian threat overlooming over Israel in general. So all of these questions, put Netanyahu in a place where if he does not have complete trust by the public that what he's doing, the decisions he's making are clean, professional, and only driven by the need to fight, then that for itself puts him in a bit of a bind.
So we asked people in Israel for their opinions on Netanyahu. Let's take a listen.
He thinks he's, undefeatable. That's impossible. I mean, we live with it, and this is the biggest burden here. To live with the knowledge that this crook is still leading this country. It's just impossible.
I think he knows what he's doing, also because he was in the army, in special units, and I think I feel secure.
I wish he would go. Lech. This is exactly what I think.
That's some really harsh criticism there. What needs to change?
Well, you got to remember, Israelis are stricken by grief, by shock, by horror, frustration. The world still, moves on in a way, but Israelis are still very much stuck on the 7th of October, feeling betrayed by the government. That's a very strong sentiment. What needs to change? Well, as long as Benny Gantz, which we've mentioned before, he is a war cabinet member. He is also the former head of the military. As long as he's there, he's considered by many Israelis the responsible adult in the room. They trust Netanyahu that as long as decision-making are done with Benny Gantz next to him, then it's done properly. Once we see Benny Gantz deciding to step back or out of the government, that's where Netanyahu is going to probably lose massive control over his political future. We don't see it happening anytime soon. The assumption is this scenario will only start after moving to the third phase, meaning Israeli soldiers withdrawing from the heart of Gaza and and setting themselves up on the margins, sort of as a buffer between Palestinians and the Israeli mainland. That will probably be happening later into about a month from now, late January. Only then we might be seeing a shift inside the war cabinet, and therefore afterwards maybe the first domino break to fall and bring about a change in the political landscape in Israel.
You spoke about upcoming phases. Another one that people want to focus on is what happens after this war. We heard Netanyahu in your report say the Palestinian Authority can have no control. What else can happen?
He recognized that the Palestinian Authority is a very good point for him to play for his base. There's very little trust, there's very little will to see the Palestinian Authority going into Gaza or going stronger in the West Bank. So he recognizes the sentiment and he plays on it to play for his base. But we're seeing the international community, we're seeing the Americans strongly pushing against that. There is nobody else that seems to be willing to step into the vacuum that will be created in Gaza once Hamas is gone. So, and this is also partially why Netanyahu is not so happy to discuss the next day for Gaza, the end goal, because that's where he needs to start talking about things that are more complicated and just say, let's be tough and let's fight, which is something most Israelis still stand behind and can get, united behind. There's also the hostages issue. That's a very, contested issue. Netanyahu feels that pushing strong, that's the only way to get them out. If you look at the left-leaning crowd in Israel, they feel that the need to take them out, even if it means stopping the fight, is worth it. And we still, we need to remember, Israel was very divided before this war started, and we're probably going to start seeing these cracks showing up very soon again.
Quite a lot to unpack there. Thank you so much for doing that so well for us, Shani Razanas.
You're welcome, Nimisha.